Hi everyone, it's Amanda. How are you doing? Today is August the 26th, 2020, and this is a bit of an impromptu video, aren't they all? Came to me today in the bath, to be honest, that I needed to do a video linked into trying to help children navigate their way back to school, college, university. By children, I'm talking anything from toddlers up to young people that are in university, either in their first year or their final year. So it's the whole spectrum. I also would like to include in this video teachers and the stresses that they are under. It's been prompted by the fact that I think probably next week, looking at the calendar, schools are going to be going back in the UK. No, let me correct that. Schools are going to be going back in England. I believe they're already back in Northern Ireland and they are already back in Scotland. And I'm also aware that some of the kids are back in other parts of the world, and some are not. So, having put this up as a suggestion on my Facebook page earlier, there are so many questions flooding in. I've actually just printed off the first 12 pages and there is no prep to this whatsoever. I'm going to dive straight into it, okay? So the first thing I would like to do though, before we do anything, is let us just dedicate this video to all the kids, all the young people, and let us make this, ask Archangel Metatron and Archangel Jophiel to let this be a portal for light and for healing to come in to help our educational systems across the world, our young people, and we're just going to raise up all of the concerns, all of the issues, or as many as we can in an hour anyway, it won't be all of them. And let's see what guidance we can get. So I'm turning to Archangel Metatron because he has a special interest in helping children in all areas, but particularly, well, not particularly, obviously schooling is a big part of a child's growing up. So of course he's going to be wanting to help in this area, okay? I'm also pulling in, so I'm just putting some incense on, Archangel Jophiel, who works on the yellow ray, and the yellow ray is linked into our intellect, so it's very good for helping us with learning and educational matters. So we've got Archangel Jophiel and we've got Archangel Metatron here. Let's just dive in, and I'm just going to read some of the questions out. As I say, I've read these, but I haven't gone into any depth on any of them, so I just want to see what wants to come through. Let's see, where should we start? Okay, let's start with this lady, Pauline. I'll just say your first name. I'm not sure if you want your second name read out, although it is there on Facebook. Pauline, you say, here in the Netherlands, school has started 1 week ago, but now I have heard that 2 classes have been closed, Group 6 and Group 7, because one of the parents of the children had the virus. All the children have had to come home for 10 days. The ages of the children are between 9 and 11 years old. How will they cope with it? How can they develop a safe feeling if they are confronted with this? Okay. So she is saying that she repeats a mantra to herself. I am safe, I am free. And I have a choice, but can they? All right. I want to just pick up that thing about affirmations before I address safe. How can children feel safe? And I am actually going to pull in the higher self of one of my daughters here to help me with this video. She probably would help me just in terms of sitting here as well. But I'm a protective mama bear, so, you know, I'm not going to have her on camera, but I do have her energy obviously around me because I'm her mum. And I have a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old. And so I'm sort of pulling on experience, and I know in particular the 14-year-old's energy around some of these issues at the moment, because she is going to be I mean, she can be whatever she wants to be, but I have a feeling she's going to be a very strong spiritual leader in her own right in the future. She may decide to do something very different, but it's there and I see it every day. And she is a great believer in affirmations and the power of affirmations. Now, this also works in terms of just placing positive sayings around your room, around the bedroom, sleeping with it underneath their pillow, having it on the mirror. So as they get ready in the morning to maybe go off to school, they can do a little bit of mirror work. By mirror work, I'm talking about looking into the mirror and saying to themselves, I can cope, I am flexible, I am strong, I am healthy, I can do this. Obviously, you have to make it applicable to the child. But working with affirmations, even at that age and younger, is absolutely something that kids can be doing. And I suspect I'm not the only parent who have noticed that they do it anyway, even without you telling them. I've never told my daughter to use them. She just instinctively knew to use them. So, and found it for herself. So that's from the wisdom of a 14-year-old. Okay, so what you could do is maybe get a deck linked into affirmations, or you could, what Metatron's saying would be better maybe, is to make your own, because it's relevant to your particular child. And he's saying make the deck with your child. So it's literally about sitting down, getting some nice coloured card out and thinking and talking to them. This is an opportunity for you to talk to your child about what are their fears. And then it's trying to turn that into a positive affirmation. So if they say to you, I am scared of catching the virus, for example. The affirmation is, I am strong and healthy with a robust immune system, something like that. It doesn't have to be as wordy as that. But you talk about the fear and then you give a solution to it in terms of a positive affirmation. And I'm seeing many parents sitting down with their children and co-creating their own little deck, for want of a better word. And Metatron's saying, get them something like I don't know, I've got one here, like an organza bag, that they can put their cards into. And if you co-create it with them, they feel, it's a bit like making a meal. If you get children to create a meal, they feel as though they're part of it, so they more want to eat it. And it's the same with something like this. If they're making it, they're going to be more likely to actually use it. There are, of course, affirmation decks you can buy, but I'm being told, why don't you make your own? Okay, because it's also about then, what Metatron's saying is it's sparking their own creativity, it's stirring up their sacral chakra, which if they've been in a lockdown situation for a while, even if they've been doing some form of education via virtual schooling, it helps to kickstart a more creative, flexible approach potentially. Okay, so it's working on that sacral chakra. Let's go back to this lady's question. So the nub of this is that you may have a child that goes back to school, and I guess they get themselves into the energetic space of being back at school, and then it could all be taken away again temporarily within the first couple of weeks, first couple of months, or 6 months in, if there is some sort of COVID scare within the school. So how do we help them with that? So what Metatron is saying is, this is teaching them flexibility. Okay, this is teaching them how to be flexible. Now, it's easy to sit here and say that, and for Metatron to say that, but you're the one as a parent or a guardian who's having to cope with the child that is learning that. What he is saying is that they are going to learn quickly and that you will be surprised by their adaptability. He's saying that some of the fears that are very well-founded, particularly in parents and in teachers, are coming from an adult perspective. And he's saying that the children have within them great reserves of being able to adapt and be flexible, more so actually than many adults, particularly adults who are older. And it's like anything, the older we get, sometimes we can get stuck in our ways, we can get stuck in our thinking. He's saying that adults who, for example, haven't, and there's no judgment on this, but adults who have not been able to break through particular barriers, issues within themselves, maybe linked into confidence, maybe linked into just dealing with life, what coping mechanisms for life. That does not mean that your child is going to have the same issue. So he's saying be very careful not to project onto your child what it is that you wouldn't be able to do in the same situation. Now, speaking as a parent, I totally put my hand up and can see that I have been guilty of that myself in the past. And what Metatron has just said, I have seen with my own eyes. I've completely seen with my own eyes, where sometimes I've projected my own fear and my own unhealed wounding onto my child that's either about to start school, go up a year, has an issue at school, worrying about various things that could potentially happen. And it was, looking back on it, it was all to do with stuff that either I had gone through or had seen myself, a struggle that I might have had with academia or social skills at school. And so I just unintentionally, having children, sort of thought, well, because they're coming up to that, they're going to have the same thing. Metatron is saying they are their own people, and they are seeded with more than you give them credit for. Okay, and he's showing me a sunflower. So the sunflower as an energy is a flower that can grow very strong, very tall, taller than any other flower in the garden, and can do so. What it needs is light, basically. It needs light, sunshine, to make it grow. So he's saying, as parents and as guardians, as teachers, you have to be their sunshine. You have to be their light. You have to, and what he means by that is positivity, okay? And yes, I completely understand that you might be looking at this thinking, but I don't feel positive at the moment. I feel depleted. I feel low. I feel sad. But yet you have a child, okay? So it's a parent will try and give the child the best of what they have, okay? Metatron's shown me a plate of food. So a good parent, for example, even if they are hungry, will give the child, if you're both starving, okay, if you're both hungry, what a good parent does is, yes, it will take some to keep itself alive and nourished, but it will give a little bit extra to the child, okay? So there's something about you as the parent having only a certain reservoir of energy or light, and he's acknowledging the fact that these are very difficult times and that you as a grown-up may very well be feeling flat and low and as though, this is just another hurdle for me to surmount. But he's saying within the reservoir of what you have, if you can just share some of that with your child, and he's talking about the positivity and hope and light, belief that it's going to be okay, that helps to water, the child, the sunflower, and they can grow strong, through anything. But he's also talking about the child as the seed, and the seed has within it ability to adapt to different terrains, different circumstances, and I'm hearing that they were born for these times. So a lot of what we're fearing as grown-ups, I'm not saying it's not justified, because I feel it too, But what I'm being told here by Spirit is that it's coming from our own fears. And if we're in a very fearful state, a very fearful place, our children are picking up on that. The more that we can raise our game as grown-ups and try to keep our focus on the light, on the fact that this is all going to be okay, even though it's very bumpy at the moment. It's a bit like being in that bumpy plane. Imagine if you're in a bumpy plane with loads of turbulence and things flying around. It's like, my God, you know, what do you do as the parent? As the parent, what you do is you take your child's arm and you say, it's going to be okay. And you do it even if through gritted teeth you're thinking, shit, this is actually really difficult. And actually I'm frightened. But you don't show that to your child. Okay, you don't show that to your child. You show the child the sun. You show the child the strength. So there's a couple of things going on here. Metatron is also saying that as parents, as guardians, as teachers, you can call on him for that strength. Okay, you can call on him for that strength that you need in these times. He's showing me first thing in the morning, you know, first day back at school, or you know, trying to get your child out of bed, you know, because they haven't necessarily had the structure. We'll come back to that in a moment. And so you're suddenly having to impose structure again. You've got to get up for a certain time. There's going to be all sorts of difficulties. And there's going to be many different scenarios. I'm being shown children that truant as well. I'm being shown children that actually quite look forward to going back, but then after the first few days they slip back, you know, and they don't want to go again, or they go into fear. They thought it was going to be okay, but then they go back into the new scenario, which is going to be different for different countries, and it's like they're actually not feeling okay. So you, as guardian, as parent, you've got to find the strength. You've got to fill up your own reservoir to be able to help them. Okay. So this also brings into it, what are you doing to fill up your own reservoir? What are you doing to help yourself so that you can help them? Okay. That you look at nature. This is what nature does. Look at other animals. Look at the way that other animals look after their own. They conserve their energy so that they can protect their young. And that's what we're being asked to do, okay? I have the energy of Christ very much around the children, as well as Metatron and Jophiel, but I'm being shown Christ now around the children because he's like the good shepherd. So it's as though he wants to make sure that the flock, the children, are all tended for within the school. Even though the school, the building, the environment, the structures, the regimes are different, it's as though having that Christ light and putting the Christ light over a particular school can really help, okay? So again, as grown-ups, what we can do is we can be envisaging our children's schools and play groups in gold light, okay? And putting Christ there, okay? If you don't resonate with the Christ energy, put Metatron there. Put any ascended master there that is obviously of love and light, that wishes to step forward to help. Put them at the gates, and what I'm seeing is it's almost like hovering over the whole premises. And if it's a big school, as they often are, and they're sort of spread out into different dormitories or different porter cabins or different buildings, make sure that you're envisaging the whole school and institution surrounded by that whole light and surrounded by the energy of Christ and the Ascended Masters, as though there's almost like this big ship, you know, hovering over the school. I mean, effectively, that's what we're asking here. We're asking for a mothership to be over the school. Now, you can put into that mothership, or you can call in a mothership over the school with whatever energy that you feel is particularly appropriate. Anybody that tries to do that in a backhanded way won't be allowed to, okay, is the first thing to say. What I mean by that is only people that are wanting an energy hovering over the school that is of love, is helpful, is supportive, is about strength and healing, will be allowed to be around the perimeter, okay? Anybody that puts anything else into it, it's like that's not going to be allowed. It's going to be very well fielded, is what I'm hearing. So you can do that as well. I mean, all schools, very much like we have our own Merkaba, a school will have its own Merkaba as well. Okay, it will have its own Merkaba field. If you work with the Merkaba, you can imagine a Merkaba around the school. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can put other templates around the school. It could be something like the flower of life, the seed of life, or it could just be a cocoon shape, you know, in gold or silver or white or blue or pink. To be honest, any of the colours of the rainbow, or indeed the whole rainbow. You could almost imagine a rainbow over the whole school as well, dipping into the classrooms as well. Okay. So yes, sorry, going back to this question. How are they going to cope if they sort of go one day and the next day they can't? Really what Metatron's saying here is that a lot of these children have got much greater resilience than you give them credit for, and that they have inbuilt into them adaptability and the ability to transform and become what they need to become, and they were made for these times. So don't put your fears onto them. Okay, now I must just qualify what I'm saying in this video for all of the questions, which is that of course I'm talking generally here. This is a general read for everybody. Okay, children by nature are unique. They are all different. There are children that are going to do better during these times than others, based on their life circumstances, based on the families that they've been born into, etc. But having said that, I'm still feeling this central thread which is coming through, is that these kids have resilience and adaptability inbuilt into them. And if you can shower them with light, remember the sunflower analogy, you are the light, you are the hope, you are the positivity. You are giving them the water that they need to be able to bloom, even in this world that we have at the moment, which at one level is not ideal, but at another level is what is required to take us as a species to where we need to be. What Metatron is saying is that the educational system is up for renewal, in the same way that every other institution, every other structure, everything in our world is up for renewal. And I'm being shown now like very Victorian, that's a British expression, but you know, Victorian classrooms, where children just sat in front of a chalkboard in rows, with the teacher at the front, and nobody was allowed to speak apart from the teacher. There was silence in the classroom, and it's as though things haven't progressed much from that day. I mean, what's happened is that the children, because society itself has changed, children by nature now are sometimes not as compliant, not as quiet. Any teacher will tell you that. There is a more rebellious energy there, but yet they're still asked to sit in rows, you know, or in a very formal type setting. And it doesn't really fit with the way that children are now. Now, what's interesting is that I'm being shown these rearranged classrooms. Again, this isn't going to be for all schools, but it is for some schools. Rearranged classrooms whereby you're not actually sitting anymore in rows, you know, like sort of just, you're just not doing that. There's one group here, there's another group there's another group here. I'm also seeing that sometimes these groups move around the tables. I'm hearing that this is a good thing. Now, hear me out with that. Not in terms of the fact that they're not able necessarily to sit next to their friends, you know, and that they're socially distanced. I'm not saying it's good in that respect, but what I'm being shown it's good for is the fact that it's breaking up this very regimented, we're all in rows, teachers there, we're down here, we've got to listen to you, we've got to be stumm. It's getting it into an energetic vibration, which is more, I don't quite know how to place. It's a bit like a mind map. What he's showing me is a mind map. So those of you that know what mind maps is, you have like an idea, and then you from that idea you have all these different strands of energy that come off it, And from the one idea, you've got something here, you've got something there, you've got something there, but everything's connected. It's like a satellite. It's almost like there's a hub around which all these other sort of satellites work. There's something to do with the changing layout of the classroom that can, in an ideal world, not for every school, can actually work to the children's advantage. Metatron's also talking about breaking up that whole thing about you sit in a certain place and you sit next to a certain person every day. He's saying that's fine if you're a child who, for example, has got loads of friends and everybody wants to sit beside you. But he's saying, what about the child who nobody wants to sit next to? What about the child who is always on the fringe, looking in at the group in the middle that everybody wants to be, that hub there? What's going to happen increasingly is that I'm hearing the word hubs. There are like these learning hubs within the classroom, within the school. And because of the nature of the beast, basically, what's happening is the hubs are changing pretty much on a daily basis, sometimes on a weekly basis, certainly on a term basis. And this is what we'll be getting to. And so there's going to be greater chance for children to be able to mix with different children. And again, this isn't necessarily going to be easy because children are like us as adults. We like to know where we stand and where we sit, and we like order and structure. But we're entering into a world that is, this is an ironic thing to say in many ways, because I know there's a lot of teaching out there on YouTube at the moment, which is that we're going into a sort of new world order type energy, and everything's going to be controlled and everything's going to be structured. But I'm actually seeing the opposite in relation to this. And I'm not saying I agree with that whole new world order thing either. I'm being shown an energy where, in terms of education, people are being forced to do it in a different way, in a much more unstructured way. So the fact that, one week you're at school, then the next you're not, it's none of this is going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for the parents who are working, trying to juggle home and work and kids. None of it's easy, but it seems to be part of the it seems to be part of what's needed to break down the whole very rigid structure of what I'm seeing is like the Victorian classroom that hasn't really changed in many respects, which is that we read this book, we do this, then the bell goes, then it's just moving from a very formal type of working to a very informal type of working. Now, Metatron is also saying that because education is going to change so much, it's going to attract in different types of people who want to do the job. That's not to say that the people currently as teachers and lecturers aren't great, and many will stay, but some who like the very formal way of doing things are going to struggle in this new world, and they need to be allowed to find new paths, basically, because I'm seeing a lot of people coming into the teaching profession who've got different types of skills, and who are just doing it who are going to be doing it in a very different way. So it's like there's an exodus on one hand, which is like, I can't cope with this. This isn't the way we do things. I can't work with this. I need to know where I am. So there's an exodus there, but then there's an influx of other people who do want to work within this very flexible, unstructured environment. It's a baptism of fire is what I'm hearing, and has been for the whole year. And what we've been going through as a world in terms of the classrooms effectively shutting, Metatron's saying is they've shut forever. What he means by that is that the old way of doing it has sort of shut forever. Now you can mourn that, or you can think actually it didn't work in that shape or form before. So what is going to be happening is changes are going to be coming in faster than people realise to the educational system and the way that things are taught and how they are taught and when they are taught and where they are taught, much quicker than people realise. And the kids are the ones that actually have got the greater degree of adaptability to this. It's the grown-ups and the parents who are going to be struggling more, because if you think about it, us as grown-ups, we went through that old system. We went through the old system, so it's what we know. It's like, well, that's how you do it. What are you talking about? You're doing it this way now. That's how you do it. Everything changes. Everything changes. And, truly, these children, I keep hearing these children are built for these times. So it really is crucial that I keep going back to us as adults working on our own stuff so that we're not projecting our own fears and our anxieties onto our children. That is not to say that you need to go into the blame game or the judgment game with yourself. That if you've got a child that is anxious, that immediately think, oh my God, it's my fault. That is not what Metatron is saying. That is not what I am saying. He's actually saying that all children are different. Children, like any other person on this planet, are different. Some children will be more naturally anxious than others. If you've got an anxious child, though, if you are also an anxious adult, you're going to make it 3 times worse, okay? So you can reduce the anxiety that your child already has by working on yourself. How do I do that? Well, that's a whole series of videos in itself, isn't it? That's the spiritual path. That's to do with working on finding a greater peace within yourself, which is linked into so many things. I can't even begin to give an answer on that, really. It's linked into how well do you look after yourself? Are you happy? Are you happy in your existing relationship? Are you happy with yourself? Are you... And it can be really little things, I noticed myself today, because I work from home and I'm usually sitting at this desk, doing my work. And I love it, but sometimes it can be a bit insular, if I'm honest, and a bit lonely because there's not lots of people coming in or anything like that. And I can suffer from low mood myself. I've said this many times, and I've been noticing I was just feeling a little bit low recently and starting to get a little bit concerned about it. And then today, just having gone out, and it sounds a silly thing, but just having my hair done, it was like I suddenly realised it was just about being out of the house that was making me feel brighter. It wasn't anything to do with having my hair cut. It was to do with the fact I was actually just somewhere different. I wasn't just sitting looking at these 4 walls, however beautiful these 4 walls are, because they are, and it's a lovely house and all the rest of it. I'm inside too much, Now, you can change that. I could, for example, go and do my emails and have a coffee somewhere at least 3 times a week, somewhere else. I could take my work into a bar if I wanted to, etc. It's the same with if you're working in an office, why am I talking? I think this is really important. I'm talking about this because more people are working from home. And I'm like 15 years into this now. I've been working from home for 15 years. So I've got quite a high tolerance level to being able to do it. But believe you me, it does come with some pressures and some challenges. And it can be literally that the 4 walls are closing in on you. That does not help your emotional state. So for you to be the best that you can be, get out of the house, okay? I remember when I used to work from an office, there's the whole thing about you don't leave your desk, you eat your lunch at the desk. I always tried to get out of the office at lunchtime to go and get some fresh air, to walk around the streets, go and look at a shop, whatever it was I wanted to do. It didn't matter what I did, but I always felt better when I then came back into the office. I was more productive. I was happier in myself. So there's this thing about when the world is feeling as though the world is closing in on us a bit because we can't travel where we want to. We can't do the things that we've taken for granted. 2020 is a funny old year, okay? We're having to deal with it and cope with it as best we can. You've got to break out of the routine and the structure as much as you can. If you think about it, our children are being asked to break out of their routine and their structure. Their routine and their structure has been shattered. So we also, as grown-ups, have to do that as well, you know, even if, as I say, it's in the little things, like just getting out for a walk every day. I will give you a tip, those of you that are self-employed. What I used to do, and I need to get back to this, is I used to try and have a little walk before I sat down and did any work in the morning. It really helps, okay? Because again, what helps you helps your child, okay? It's all interlinked. Let's go to another question now. So, okay, there's so many questions. I'm just wondering where to go with it. Let's go to this one. My child is 11, going back to school already. I'd like to hear how to strengthen his immune system. I've got him some crystals, snowflake obsidian to wear, and a few others to keep in his room. Also spirulina and D vitamin we take, no fear. Anything about children I'd like to hear. Okay, so that's what this particular lady does for her son. You may very well have your own little things that you do for your children. So how can we help strengthen their immune system? Okay, let's see what Metatron has to say on this one. He's saying fear is one of the biggest threats to the immune system. I keep wanting to go back to what I've already said. Fear is the greatest threat to our immune system. Fear and anxiety. If they are around an environment which is fear-based, and that might be coming from you, it might be coming from the media, it might be coming from anybody, it might be coming from social media, then that is not good. So what's the opposite of fear? The opposite of fear is love. It's the energy of love. Now, love comes in many forms, is what he's saying. Because as soon as you say love, you think, oh yeah, a nice cuddle. Well, a cuddle's not going to do much, is it, if they're terrified about going back to school? Well, love can also be a very potent energy. It's not just all the soft and fluffy stuff. Where are you going with this, Metatron? Immune system and love. Love and the immune system. He's saying love knits and repairs the etheric holes in an aura. Love heals and repairs scar tissue, internal and external. Love heals everything. Hi everyone, it's Amanda. Right, we're 48 hours on. It's now Friday the 28th of August 2020, and I'm going to do the second part of this video. Struggled yesterday, didn't feel particularly great. I think it was actually linked into the Schumann resonance, which was doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things. I'm very much affected by the ups and downs of all that, and some days I just can't record. Today it feels a little bit easier, even though we've got a storm developing and is due in a couple of hours here. But hey ho, we're riding the waves, aren't we? I've actually chosen some questions to read out. But I also had a chat with my daughter, who I mentioned earlier on in the video, and asked her did she have any opinions on people that were having to go back into school? And she came up with two things that I hadn't actually thought of, which I think are really worth commenting on. The first is children by nature are like the rest of us. And we can all get put into certain roles that are given to us. We get given roles in our families, we get given roles in places that we work. And what I mean by that is people put us into a box, they put us into a certain bracket. that we are the bright one, we're the silly one, we're the shy one, we're the adventurous one, etc. So human nature has a way of doing that, and schools are a breeding ground for this as well. So children pre-lockdown may very well have been put into a certain bracket by their peers, not just the teachers, by their peers. So if you think of a year group, there are the kids who, are the cool ones. There are the kids who are sort of on the fringes. There are the kids that are a little bit quirky. And children, teenagers, young people are just as guilty as we are of putting others into certain brackets. And what my daughter was saying is that what will have been happening through the lockdown and through this period of not having to go into school and necessarily being able to even see that peer group is that some people will have broken out of those roles, those brackets, those boxes that others have placed them in. So, for example, the shy child may very well have grown in confidence enormously through the lockdown period and now not feel like the identity that they've been given, 4 or 5 months previously, and then have to go back and sort of play that old role, which isn't going to fit anymore. And also it can work, in many different ways as well. The child that maybe is the joker in the pack, the one that's always joking around and playing around, might have grown in maturity maybe, through this period. And like all of us have gone through a process of really having to look deep into themselves, and so don't want to go back and play that sort of jokey role. So I thought that was a really interesting point that she made. And how do we deal with that? I guess it's about explaining to our children that it's okay to grow, it's okay to change. In fact, it's brilliant that we grow and that we change and that we evolve, and that it's about going back and showing who you are now, not necessarily who you were then. And as I say, this works in a number of different ways. Okay, some kids will have made progress, in terms of feeling more comfortable, have grown in confidence, etc. And others might feel as though they've gone backward. Although the journey of life, it's all a process of learning anyway. So it's about where they are now, who they are now, and as parents and guardians, giving them the confidence to be able to say, go back as that person. Don't go back as the person that you were in March or in April or whenever lockdown first happened, because we've all grown through this process and we've all changed. So it's almost as though it's a moment to, it's like a reset moment. And rather than your child thinking they're the only one that's changed, the truth is that the whole class will have changed to some degree. So trying to go back into a very sort of boxed, uniform way that I am this, they now will be a different person in some shape or form. So it's just about encouraging, and this is true, isn't it, anyway? We have to just be true to who we are in any particular moment. And we all grow and we all evolve and we all have different moods based upon what's going on in our life and what we're going through. So it's about authenticity and about being just who you really are and having the confidence to show that, okay? I will say at this point, I don't want to keep going on about the sprays that we make, but there are 3 children's sprays that we make, which grown-ups also use as well, but they have been made for children. They've been on sale for a good year or so now, and they cover the whole spectrum, basically, of, well, a lot of the spectrum in terms of trying to help support children and young people. And I will just briefly show what they are now, because we've got one which is about fear and helping to fight fear. It's called Fear Fighter, okay, as the name suggests. It's about helping us to feel the fear and do it anyway, okay, so to forge through. We've also got a spray which is called My Superpower, which, as its name suggests, is about trying to help the child and young person to become their own superhero, basically, okay? To be able to link into their own divine power, their own confidence, to give them whatever it is that they need, basically, to get up get out there and show the world what they've got. Okay. The other one that we've got is a spray which is called Sweet Dreams, which, as its name implies, is very good for helping children who maybe struggle to sleep at night, maybe any child that's got fears in terms of going back into the school environment. These three together are really sort of like a toolkit for kids, and they have Archangel Metatron's energy within them. They can be sprayed before you go to school, for example. So I have lots of children, lots of parents who buy them for their children. My own children use them as well. And certainly, you know, my daughter, she's not actually in the school environment anymore. She's being homeschooled, and I'll talk about homeschooling as a separate question in a moment. But, you know, she would always spray these before going to school. It just became part of her routine. Okay, so you can also, for example, put them beside the bed. You can put them in the bed, actually underneath the child's pillow. But more than anything, let the child decide what he or she wants to do with them. Okay, they're their sprays. It's not about you sort of running after them and spraying them. It's about the child taking ownership, that this is a tool, very much like you might give them a crystal or any other tool that can help them, and then it's for them to decide how they wish to use them, or indeed if they do want to use them. They might not, but I do just want to say that we have got that toolkit. Because a lot of the things that I'm talking about in this video, i.e. pushing through fear, growing in confidence, I just said go back and be your authentic self. There's a tool here to help with that, which is my superpower. My superpower is the energy, which is sort of like I'm okay to show the world who I really am, okay, in this moment. And also it's safe to do that. I'm protected, and I've got angelic help that's helping me. I'm not alone in that, okay? Right, so that was the first point that, my daughter made. The second point she made, and this would never have crossed my mind, and we'll talk about masks and ask Archangel Metatron about masks in a moment, but she was saying that for certain, I mean, she's a girl, so she was talking more from a girl's perspective, but maybe this would apply to boys as well. But girls who have a very strong identity with being the confident one at school via their looks, okay, by, you know, the wearing of makeup, hair styled in a certain way, and that's a way that is helping. It's almost like that's part of their battle armor, you know, putting on the makeup. I mean, I did it as a teenager. I used to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to put my face on, even when I was a teenager, because it gave me confidence to be able to go into school, and I looked a certain way. Well, you know, girls, for example, like that, or boys who are styling their hair in a certain way, if they've then got to put a mask on their face where basically you can't see half of the face, you can see the eyes, you can't see anything else, it can have a detrimental effect, because the identity is changed. I thought that was a really, really interesting point. Now, my daughter's not particularly into makeup and stuff like that, so it wouldn't have applied to her. So, but she's seeing that in others who gained their confidence in that way by, you know, having a certain look, and that being approved of by peers, to then have to wear something that covers virtually all of that up, that's going to be a struggle. So let's think about what we can do with that. What we can do with that is it's about teaching the child, the teenager, the young person, that it's not just looks that give you confidence, you know, that actually you've got to find the confidence deep within yourself. So this is working on the solar plexus. Yes, it's linking in with finding your superpower energy, but in terms of the chakras in the body, it's really the solar plexus chakra, okay, which is that I am confident to show the world who I am. So any work that you can do around strengthening your child's solar plexus energy, where confidence has its home, is to be encouraged. So yes, I have a spray linked into solar plexus. It's called Golden Citrine. Do I have it to hand? Yes, let's just have a little look at it. Looks like this, okay, Golden Citrine. But again, you could use crystals. You could use, for example, I mean, we've called it Golden Citrine. Citrine is a brilliant crystal to help with confidence. But I mean, there are many, many different techniques linked into helping your child to be confident. And it isn't just a one answer, thing. It's many things. It's also to do, Archangel Metatron's just hovering now, he's coming in, he's saying it's to do with you building their confidence as a parent. Sometimes we don't realise that we can be chipping away at our child's confidence by constantly criticising or being negative or saying, no, you can't do that. Or indeed, what I grew up with, being with parents who were very fearful. I grew up with one parent in particular, my mum, who was very fearful, still is. So it was always to do with, don't do that, it's not safe. Well, what that does is it chips away at your confidence, and you start to see the world as an unsafe place. School is just another expression of that unsafeness. So it's about helping the child to feel safe, helps the child's confidence as well. Okay. Now, one card that Metatron showed me this morning coming in to do the second part of the video is this one from my own deck. Okay. And this is the card of priorities. It obviously links into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is that we need to have our foundation needs met first, i.e., are we safe? Are we fed? Have we got a roof over our head? Confidence at the end of the day can only come in when our basic needs are met, that we know that we're safe, we know that we're cared for, we know that we have a strong foundation underneath ourselves. Now, for you as the parent, the guardian and the teacher, it's about trying to help the child to feel that safe place, that safe foundation, basically, which is the first building block to be able to feel confident. So I'm going to talk about priorities a little bit more later on. But this is an important thing to consider as well. What are you doing to help your child or your young person to feel safe? Now, this also comes into routines and structure, trying to keep a routine, trying to keep some form of structure, trying to keep, just something going that that your child particularly loves or gets comfort from or is reassured by. So that even though this particular part is very changeable at the moment, i.e. education and, how it's going to work and when I might be at school, when I might not be at school, who's going to be there, am I going to be taking exams? We had a whole year this year where the children haven't taken the exams for their GCSEs and A-levels. That must be very difficult to be able to be learning something that you're assuming there's a test at the end, but you don't actually know whether the test is going to be there or not. Now, I'm being shown here the analogy of the Olympics, actually, because again, the Olympics were cancelled this year, weren't they? Supposedly they're happening next year in 2021. But again, you think about an athlete who is still training, not necessarily knowing whether they're even going to be given the opportunity to run round the track or throw the javelin, or swim the 25 meters, etc., or run the race. But they still are doing the training because it's not just about the end reward, is what Metatron is saying. It's not just about the medal on the chest. It's linked into if you have a talent and if you have a skill, it's about trying to hone that and refine that as best as you can for your own sense of self-accomplishment. And if a child feels as though they have accomplished something, even if there isn't the end result of the medal, it gives an inner sense of confidence and satisfaction. It's a bit like if you have never had to work for money in your life, you've just been handed everything on a silver plate. You don't actually appreciate it as much. If you've actually had to work for something and you've had to work hard for something, whether it's you've built up a business or, you've qualified in something, there's a sweetness that comes from that hard work. So this is also to do with instilling a work ethic in your children. Even though the parameters at the moment are much looser than they ever have been in terms of if you work hard, you get this. This is more now linked into an energy of you work hard, and you work hard for yourself. You work hard for your own sense of inner accomplishment and pride in yourself and satisfaction in yourself. And all of these attributes, Metatron is saying, helps build self-confidence as well. So this is a generation coming through that are not going to be handed as much on a plate as previous generations. Okay, he's also bringing in here, there's a lot of different things coming in. I'm being shown the housing market as well. Okay, I realise lots of people are watching me in different places around the world, but you know, from a UK perspective, trying to get onto that ladder of buying your home, because people buy their homes here a lot in the UK, is really, really difficult. Previous generations, it was still difficult, but it was manageable, because you had the job for life, you know, you had the structure, you got your foot on the ladder. Some people got burnt by that. I certainly did in the 1990s with negative equity. But anyway, it's all changed now. It's difficult to get your foot on the ladder in terms of the job, in terms of the home. So this generation are going to be working harder for what they accomplish. But it's going to have a long-term benefit, Metatron's saying, of a generation who are very strong and who are very resilient and who have learned how to persevere and who have learned how to be flexible and who've got some very, very valuable gifts which build this new economy stroke new earth. And I'm sort of looking here because I've got the lion, I've got the crystal energy of the lion here, and it just feels as though the energy of the lion is very much with these this generation as well, really sort of that they're going to roar in their own way, but they are absolutely forging a path that has never been there before. I mean, I've got a card here, which I must admit I pulled for myself, but is actually very relevant now. It says, forge, don't follow. Okay, so this is a generation which is being asked to forge, not follow. It says, pave a new path, be the leader that you wish you had. So for these children, where they're looking to the educational system, they're looking up there, you know, for you to tell me that I'm okay and that I've got the gold tick, that I've completed the, you know, the education in the way that society expects me to be. It's as though everything's changing. It's a very, very fluid situation around education at the moment. And it's to do with forging this new path. And for these children to step into true empowerment, actually. Okay, right, let's go to another question now. Let's go to this one from Emilia Iao. Not sure how you pronounce your name. Sorry about that, Emilia. She says, my child is 11 years. My child, 11 years, is back to school already. I would like to know how to strengthen his immune system. I've got him crystals, snowflake obsidian to wear, and a few others to keep in his room. Also spirulina and D vitamin, and no fear. Yeah, absolutely no fear. She's talking about trying to not have any fear around him. I mean, that's true, isn't it? That fear is one of the greatest things that actually weakens the immune system. So if you as a parent are very anxious about your child going back or your child's prospects, that does lower their immunity. And I absolutely speak from experience there, having grown up with a parent that is anxious and fearful all the time. That has it can often end up with you crashing, you know, at some point, because you've just absorbed, or if you're an empath, and a lot of these children are, you've absorbed all of that, and then you have a moment where you just crash. For me, it was when I was about 13, and I just had glandular fever really, really badly. It took me a couple of years to recover from it, to be honest. And I look back now, Metatron's tying it in with this fear energy. It's not judging, you know, what I was exposed to. It's not judging the person that did that. Any parent is where, you know, is trying the best they can. But it is understanding the consequences of being around a fearful environment, okay? So again, as parent, as guardian, as teacher, It's about trying to not show your fear. I keep hearing, the book, Feel Your Fear and Do It Anyway. It's about pushing through the fear. Let's just spray a bit of this fear fighter now as I talk about fear, actually. So I'm just going to take this off because it's hot now. Funny old day, stormy day. Let's just spray this. Fear fighter. Let's see what Metatron has to say about fear and immunity. You see, straight away, he's just showing me healthy cells in a body, and it's like they contract. It's like when you have an energy of hope and you have an energy of positivity, it's like I'm just seeing the analogy as the cells sort of are able to expand and to be able to take in, whatever they need to take in, fluid, nutrients, energy, oxygen, whatever. And when we're in a fear-based state, it's as though the cells are just contracting and doing that. And again, we're back to the clenched fist type energy. That's why a lot of people chew their nails as well. It's like, I'm eating away, I'm gnawing away because there's a fear inside of me. So this biting nails is actually a manifestation of what you're doing inside, which is it's as though the fear is eating you inside. So we need to be not in, as much as we can, not in a fear-based state. What is the antidote to fear? He's just saying, take my hand. Okay, he's wanting me to show a card in this deck. Where is it? It's the fear card in the Metatron deck. Those of you that have got it, this is what he's showing me, conquering fear, okay? So this is the angel, okay, that is basically taking your hand. It's taking the child's hand, because it knows sometimes that the fear can be overwhelming, all-encompassing, and as though I can't navigate this, I can't take this step on my own. What I'm hearing here is you don't have to take it on your own. It's as though I am here with you. I am here with you. He's telling me to read a little bit of a passage from this book. Let's just grab it. Okay, let's see what words came through, because even though I wrote them, I don't remember what I write. And I probably wrote these about 3 years ago anyway. So Conquering Fear, start today. If you've got the book, you can read it. It's page 51. With the oracle cards, you get this book that comes with it. So often, though, you forget to call on them. This is the angels. And then when you do ask, you doubt that they have heard. And so you ask again and again, weakening your own faith that they are actually there. That's an interesting point, isn't it? The more that you keep asking is because you think they haven't heard in the first place. So what's being said here is you're weakening your own faith that they've actually heard you and that they are actually there right with you. It makes the point that the angels have been around you since you were born. They heralded your arrival and have celebrated your successes. They've tried to pick you up when you have failed, or you've been hurt, or you've needed their care and love. They remind you that you have already accomplished and conquered many things. Okay, so it's about Metatron and the angels reminding your child of what it is you've already accomplished and conquered. That can be big things, that can be small things. So again, that's something you could do with your child. You could sit them down and you could come up with a list of things that they have accomplished where they've been able to push through something. I'm being shown swimming for some children. Okay, the first time that you took off, the water aids, the armbands, and you swam that first width on your own, and you were able to do it, and the sense of accomplishment that you felt from that. The first day of school, for example, first day of nursery. I don't know. It'll be different for every child, but making them think back in terms of what they have already accomplished and conquered, where they've been able to push through that fear. It says, this new fear around you now has arisen out of your own shadow. It's the side of you that mistakenly thinks it keeps you safe by staying exactly where you are, never trying anything new and always maintaining the status quo. It's, however, an illusion. These feelings and negative voices in your head that say I can't or I won't are just an energetic block that can be broken through by proclaiming I can and I will. that which seems so difficult now needs to be taken a step at a time and broken down into achievable chunks and made comfortable to you, so you can cross each stepping stone with growing confidence and trust. Now, crossing each stepping stone with confidence and trust, what I'm being shown is the school term, okay? So, you know, terms are broken down, certainly here in the UK, into half terms. So the child, the young person, starts back at school, college or university, and they know that the next holiday is in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the timing is. So what Metatron is showing me is if you can get the child, and this applies to the teachers as well, to imagine the stepping stones through the term, because otherwise it feels like, oh my God, I'm back, and it's not until, you know, December that I've got a break again. And that's when it all starts to feel overwhelming. If you're in an overwhelm energy, or you're in a fear-based energy, if you can break it down into little steps, and Metatron's talking about the week, okay? So it's like from Monday to Friday, and then making stepping stones through the week. He's also talking about, for example, on a Wednesday, you could do something special on a Wednesday, or something different on a Wednesday, something that's out of the normal routine, a little treat. It could be, doesn't have to be lots of money. It could be your child's favourite meal. You know, on a Wednesday, we're going to sit down, I'm going to cook you that favourite meal, because I'm appreciating that, you know, you're finding it maybe a little bit difficult at the moment, but on Wednesday, we just are able to sort of, you know, have a bit of a laugh and watch your favourite film. If you've got girls, let's get a bucket of popcorn in and put a film on. It's that type of thing. It's doing something for the kids. It's also doing something for you as the teacher as well, giving yourself these little stepping stones through the week. So you're not seeing just, at the moment, it's almost like school's back, okay? It's school's back. And it's as though that just feels monumental, because you're seeing it in terms of the whole school year, and then another school year, and then another school year. So it's about breaking it down into sizable chunks within the term, is what Metatron is saying. This thing about this new fear has arisen around you out of your own shadow, and it thinks that it's keeping you safe. You see, the thing is, for some children, because they are affected by the collective energy, which has been promoting an energy of fear. The media has been promoting an energy of fear. I don't want to get too much into the whole, you know, politics of it all, but there's an energy of fear that's out there. Children feel that. Some can see through it, some don't believe it, some absolutely do feel it and are believing it. So they're picking up on the collective, which has told them that it's safer for you to be at home. Now they're being told it's actually okay for you to go back, but it's like, what's actually changed? So the more that we as a collective can help to lift this veil of fear that's over the world, the more it's going to help our youngsters and our young people. But it starts within the home. To be honest, if I had younger children, I would be supervising what's coming on the television. I wouldn't be allowing them to hear necessarily all of the news. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying make your child ignorant so they don't know what's going on, because let's be honest, a lot of them have got phones anyway. And from my experience, certainly with teenagers, they often know before me what has happened. I remember when there was a terrorist attack or something in the UK a year or so ago, and I remember I was about to broach it with my older girl. Maybe it was linked into a music concert or something, and she already knew all about it, basically. She knew sort of within the first half hour of the news breaking. What I'm talking about is like rolling news, you know, where it's just like it's on the whole time. You're having your breakfast, you know, trying to get ready for school, and you've just got this energy coming at you, which is like, here's the latest figures, here's this that's happened, here's that. You know, media by nature is not promoting positive, happy news. It's telling you what's wrong in the world. So none of that is particularly great, you know, for them to be exposed to on too regular a basis. What you could do, Metatron is saying, is a certain time in the week where you sit down as a family and you actually discuss what's going on in the news, okay? And then you have a chance to also be able to put it into context, and more than anything, you know, give them some hope as well. So it's like you're managing it, okay? All right. This card as well is really to do with, you know, a child that's feeling fearful. It's saying, put your hand in mine, but it's also reminding you that there's a safety net underneath you. There is a safety net underneath you. So you can get the child to imagine that, you know, as they are going into school, that Spirit has got them, basically. Spirit is holding them. Spirit's holding them. Spirit is with them. Spirit is in the school with them. It's in the classroom with them. It's right beside them. Okay? Let's just go back to that question, if there's anything else that I haven't answered in it. Okay, now I think I'll go on. Right, let's have a look here now at this one from... Oh, I didn't answer about the immune... I talked about fear with the immune system. Let's just see if Metatron wants to add anything else. I'm going to use, let's just use this spray. Okay, so immunity, boosting a child's immunity. Diet, straight away I'm hearing, diet. Again, as a parent, as a mum myself, it can be really hard sometimes to carve out the time to always be cooking a nutritious meal. Just being honest and being real. We live in a world where we've got ready meals constantly in our faces, fast food. I had some fast food last night, enjoyed it very much, thank you, you know. But the point is you can't be doing that all the time. So I'm hearing diet straight away coming in, nutrition. To be honest, there's no excuse to not know what you should be eating and what you shouldn't be eating. There is so much information out there freely available. You just have to Google it, okay? You don't even have to go into a shop and buy a book or a magazine. It's all readily available if you want to find it. So, and it's just the obvious stuff. You know, it's fresh food, it's unprocessed food. If you're on a very low budget and you can't afford, you know, fresh food, and you know it's a struggle for you, Metatron is saying try to make the wisest choices that you can. Okay, so for example, he's showing me a potato. Okay, a potato isn't that expensive. A potato has got a lot of nutrients in it and vitamins in it. A potato can be made into a number of different dishes. It doesn't have to be boring. You know, you can do chips with it. You can do whatever, baked potatoes, you know, mashed potatoes, sliced potatoes, grated potato, whatever. He's also shown me, you know, tinned food that can be, again, can be cheap, but also can be nutritious. So things like tinned tomatoes, tinned beans. It's about going back to a time whereby I think a lot of people who are on low budgets are already very savvy, actually, in terms of being able to plan their meals. I think other people can learn from that. It's about planning the meals and making sure that there is some nutritional rich food within each meal that you prepare as much as possible. I'm also hearing root vegetables as well being very important, because if you think about root vegetables, it's to do with grounding. Okay, but I've already mentioned potatoes, but you know, any root vegetable would be the same. At a time when everything is very fluid and shaky, then foods that are grounding are going to be very helpful as well. Foods that are very grounding, and then foods that are very alive. And by alive, what I'm talking about is I'm seeing juices. So like juicing, fresh foods that have got a naturally high vibration to them, that actually feel alive, you know, rather than dead. And what I mean by that is you could pick up something like a donut, and although it might be lovely, in terms of the vibration that it's actually got within it, it's you know, it's made up of just sugar and fat, so it's got a low vibration. If you pick up something like a beautiful juice or something, or cucumber or celery or anything like that, it's got a much higher vibrational energy. And if you're ingesting that, it's going to make you feel better. It's going to make you feel more alive, rather than something that's going to deplete you and lower you. Okay, so I'm also hearing diet. Let's just see anything else. I'm hearing tonic. I'm hearing tonic. In the old days, when I was a child, my mum used to buy a tonic. It was one, in fact, probably went back to the days when I had glandular fever and things like that. But even as a younger child, I used to have a tonic. And it was one of these, drinks that have got lots of different, things that are good for you in it. I don't want to be too prescriptive because every child is different, but it's just to do with some sort of tonic that can be helpful. I have to say I'm actually staring at a homeopathic medicine bottle as I'm talking to you as well. So again, it's not about being too prescriptive. It can be to do with looking at different modalities that can help, whether that comes from something like homeopathy, whether it's vitamins, whether it's just getting it all from the food that you're eating. But it's to do with a tonic. Okay, let's just see if there's anything else. Just pause for one moment. I'm just going to get a drink actually. This is a good example of needing to be flexible at the moment. Those of us that work from home, it can be really difficult when there's lots of noise around the house the whole time. So I just had to pause the video again there. Anyway, I'm back to it. God knows how long it's going to take to edit all this together, and I'm realising that I'm nowhere am I going to be able to answer all the questions, so this is probably going to be a part one, but we'll get as far as we can in this video without it getting too unwieldy in terms of length. Okay, I will just mention that before I paused the camera, I was talking about going to get a drink, and it brings to mind, of course, water. We can't get away from the messages of water. One of you today, and the importance of water, cleansed water, blessed water, holy water. It's coming up time and time again in my videos. One of you this morning has just sent me a little message that ties into the video I did on Australia recently, where Metatron was talking about or he alerted us for some reason to the water supply in parts of Australia. And the need to bless it, linking into the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto. And apparently there's 99 suburbs in Melbourne, I believe, that have got water that's needing to be boiled before it can be drunk at the moment because of contamination that's come in via the storm that's happened there recently. So it's like the elements, obviously, because they're all churned up as well. They're in a state of flux like everything else. We're needing to be careful with the water that we drink. So I do think there's also something to do with getting enough water, but making sure that you bless the water before you drink it, and also imbue the water with health-giving properties. Okay, so that is, I've said all of that before in other videos, so I won't go on about that now. I want to look at the subject of masks. Can I just preface this by saying this is not going to be a video just talking about the wrongs and the rights of wearing masks, whether you're for wearing a mask or whether you're not about wanting to wear a mask, okay? I'd like to make this as constructive as possible for the kids. And where Metatron is going to come from with this is he's going to help give some guidance in situations where they are being asked to wear one, okay? We're not getting into the whys and wherefores of should they be being asked or not in this video. We're trying to be constructive in terms of this is what we are faced with, what guidance can Spirit give us to help us at this time, okay? So the first thing that Metatron showed me, again, is very linked into the cards in my deck at the moment. He's showing me this card, Cosmos Mirrors You. Okay, the cosmos mirrors you. What he means by this is, again, if you are being asked to wear a mask in a school and you are going to be going in with an attitude of, well, could be many different things, but not feeling positive about it. There may very well be good reason to not feel positive about it, but please hear me out. So you go in, you put it on, and you feel as though it's a symbol, for example, of, I don't know, control. It's something where I can't breathe in it. It's something which is about trying to, I don't know, subjugate me in some shape or form. It's a negative. You've got a negative mindset in terms of wearing this mask. You're very anti wearing the mask in the school, but you're being forced to. What we're hearing here is the universe is going to mirror that back to you. Okay, so you're not going to be attracting in anything positive from the experience. You will just be in the energy of, this is terrible, I hate it, there is nothing good in this. And therefore you're going to be attracting in an energy which isn't particularly helpful for you. If you can put it on, whether you like it or don't like it, with a more neutral, really, attitude to it. You don't have to love it, because personally I don't think anybody really loves wearing them. But a neutral attitude to it, which is just that I have to put this on because it's just part of the policy at the moment of school. It's not always going to be the policy. But have an more open mind to it. This is just sort of like an experience that I'm going to be going through. It's an experience that all of us are going through at the moment with this. The universe is going to mirror back to you a more positive attitude. So if, for example, again, this builds on videos I've done on this already, whereby you can wear it and you can concentrate on the eyes that are looking back at you. The eyes are the mirror of the soul, and you can start to really see each other at a deeper level. Remember what my daughter was talking about earlier that I mentioned to you, which is like you're being given an opportunity to get out of the box, that you're not just the joker, you're not just the shy one, you're not the swot, you're not this, you're not that, you're not the cool kid. You're just, you know, it's like I'm actually being able to really see who you are. A lot of switched on kids are really going to be able to truly see who each other are. Okay, you're going to be getting some positive thing back from that. So the cosmos will always mirror to you what you send out. That is true of anything, whether it's masks or anything else. So that's the first thing that I'm hearing with regard to this. I'm also being told that for some kids in particular who are very sensitive, feel very overwhelmed, may very well be shy, potentially even on the autistic spectrum, who find the whole school experience very overwhelming. Some kids might actually do quite well wearing one. And what I'm being shown is it's a bit like having a fringe, okay? It's like the child that hides behind the fringe. You know, it's like the Lady Di type energy. I'm hiding behind the fringe because I don't really want you to see who I am, because I feel safer behind here. It's the same thing wearing this. It's like you can't really see who I am, funnily enough, although you can if you really look into their eyes. But it gives a feeling for some children, not all children, that I'm a bit safer behind here. So it's going to work in many different ways for many different children. Some are going to hate it, some are going to love it. But what Metatron's saying is, if you can just remember this point, and as a teacher, as a parent, try and get this point through, that what you put out is what you get back from life. That is true of every single experience that there is, okay? Masks are just another expression of that, okay? So try and bring to you a positive energy. I've noticed myself, you know, when I walk around and I have to wear one because it's law now in the UK that if you go into the shop you have to, I will try and smile even though people can't see my smile. I'll smile at somebody as though they could see me, and I know it's coming to my eyes. You know, I know people can see that I'm smiling because it's coming through my eyes. And I've noticed that when I do that, I'm getting it back tenfold. People are genuinely really smiling back in it feels a much more genuine way. They say a smile either reaches your eyes or it doesn't. You can see whether it's genuine or not. So actually it almost feels like I'm having some more genuine, authentic encounters with people than just sort of like that, yeah, you know, have a good day type thing. So it's what you give is what you get back. Okay, so it can either work for you or it can work against you. This question actually came in from Darren Hebert, and I'll read it out because it says, Thanks, Amanda. I'd like to know, will mask wearing and social distancing have a big emotional, social impact on young people, or will they have the wisdom and wherewithal to just get on with it and adapt easily with little or no repercussions? Metatron has said, hasn't he, that there is great adaptability within this generation, so do not count them out. Again, remember what I said earlier in this video, that as adults, we're struggling more than they are sometimes with this stuff. Okay, that's not to say they're not facing challenges, because they are, but there is adaptability there. To be honest, I'm feeling it's the teachers I'm feeling more concerned for here, because to try and police this and keep a grip on it is going to be really difficult. Metatron is asking us to remember that the teachers and the head teachers and the deputy heads, rather than going at them because of the policy that you don't like, even if you've got good justification for not liking that policy, please remember that they're human beings, that often these teachers and head teachers are parents as well. Certainly before my daughter left the secondary school, literally a week before a lockdown, ironically, the head teacher was sending out notices where he was definitely alluding to the fact, I'm a parent with you, and I'm also struggling, for example, with these new procedures and regimes, and so that phrase of "we're all walking each other home" comes in here. We are all in this together, is what Metatron is saying. So the more that you try and put, we can go two ways. We can either think that we're all in this together and we're going to try and make the best of it as we can, or we can go into separation energy again, which is us against them. Don't make it about, us against them in terms of them as the teachers or them as the head teachers. See them as human beings who are also struggling with this as well. Okay. But yeah, I'm feeling that they can adapt. The kids can adapt quite well to this. I'm not getting anything else from that at the moment, so I'm going to move on to another question. Just pull one other card on masks and kids and this specific scenario. It's not a general discussion on masks per se. Shine on. And the energy of yellow and fun. Yeah, you see, I was wanting to say that and I held back. And you shouldn't ever really do that when you get things. I was feeling as though this is probably true more for maybe younger children, maybe not, I don't know. There's this thing of kids liking to dress up. I think with a certain age group of children, it's almost like this is part of it can be built into, it's a dressing up type energy. I'm seeing much younger children. I'm seeing some children in families where, because certainly again in the UK, I think under the age of 12 you don't have to wear a mask, certainly in shops and things like that, but I'm seeing these children which is like, but I want one, mum, I want one as well. But again, they're doing it in a very light-hearted way. They're not doing it in a way in terms of, oh my God, and I'm going to put this on and never be able to take it off again. It's a bit like a dressing up type thing. There's an energy of, there's a childlike energy to this coming through, and a sort of, so I look at the yellow Andara stone. There's an energy coming through here where funny, I've put it onto my third eye. It's almost as though they're being able to see through the bullshit. Excuse my language, but that's what I'm hearing. And it's like, well, if we're going to have to do this, we're just going to have a bit of fun with it, is what I'm wanting to say. For some, not for all. We're going to have a bit of fun with it. I'm also seeing that for some of the older kids, we're going to have a chance to put something onto our masks. It's almost like an FU type energy. But again, I feel sorry for the teachers and the head teachers that are going to have to police that. But there's this sort of there's an energy here with the children which is just very much sort of linked into, yeah, well, if we're going to be asked to do it, we're going to have a bit of fun with it. We're going to not take it as seriously as you grown-ups are taking it. Metatron, is there any energy here that once these masks are on, they're never going to come off again, in terms of this is a permanent thing that's going to be asked of us and our children? Let me just go into that energy. No, why would that be so? He's saying he's talking about the great awakening in our world, which is about revealing who we really are. So this is temporary. This is temporary. So when something is temporary, we can either run ourselves ragged and round in circles, and get completely and utterly obsessed with it, you know, to our detriment. Or if it's temporary, we can go into it in a more sort of like, it is what it is, we're just going to do this for the moment, knowing full well that it's not permanent. It's not permanent. Some people will challenge me on that. I'm not feeling any sense of permanence with this whatsoever. It is where we are at the moment in 2020. Okay, back to it. A couple of hours later. This video is very much practicing what I'm saying. The need for adaptability and flexibility. It's very difficult sometimes working from home with a lot of distractions and noise, especially when you do this type of work. So I'm having to adapt and just do it when I can, get in these little pockets. So I think this is part 3. Okay, we were just mentioning, weren't we, I showed the yellow Andara crystal. What I want to say about this as well is that yellow links into Archangel Jophiel's ray, okay? Now, Archangel Jophiel helps with academia, helps with memory retention, helps with learning. So for any child that has been, even though, you know, during lockdown, they've been remote learning, and I guess they've had to adapt to that, some more successfully than others. Going back into the classroom situation is going to be challenging in terms of academically as well for some. So bringing in the yellow ray, which links into the rational mind, is going to help. And also calling on Archangel Jophiel, so you can do that as well, okay? Right, okay, let's just see if there's anything else. I just feel like there's another message to come out with regard to masks and children and schools. So I'm going to go back to the Metatron deck here. Let's just see, is there any other message here, please, Metatron, linked into children having to wear masks in school? Any other message? Conquering fear. Has come up again. Okay, interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. I'm really glad I pulled the card. I'm hearing that for some children, and you have to respect this if you are somebody that's maybe anti-masks, for some children they feel safer wearing them at the moment. Okay, they actually feel safer going back wearing them. So that's something that I'm hearing very, very clearly. Again, not for all, but for some, it's almost as though, put it this way, they've been told it's not safe to go to school for months now, which is why they've been at home. They're now being told it's safe to go back, but yet the virus is still out there. Children are not stupid, okay? They're not stupid. So, you know, it's like, well, hold on a minute, that doesn't quite add up. So for some, it's helping them to actually feel safer going back into that environment. So please respect that. I also think it's something along the lines of whatever opinion you have about, you know, wearing masks. Say, for example, if you're somebody that's very anti them, realise that, you know, that is your opinion, but your child might have a different one, okay? And it could work in reverse, of course, as well. So this whole experience really is about learning to respect other people's opinion. And that also applies to people that are in our home and our children as well. So I'm getting that from that message. Let's see, anything else? Anything else? Wearing masks within school. Mother Earth, grounding and support. That one's been on the bottom of the pile twice now. Spiritual warrior, Mother Earth, spiritual warrior. I'm just trying to tune into what this means in relation to the question that I've asked. Wearing masks within school, Mother Earth and silver. Okay. Don't shoot me down for saying this, but I'm going to say it's backing up some of the science that's out there, which is linked into it's safe to get back out there. Mother Earth is about getting back out there into the material world. The school is a part of the material world. Silver is an energy linked into protection. So it's as though the mask seems to be linked into it is a safer, it's creating a safer environment for them to take these tentative steps back in to this new reality. That might change within 3 months' time, it might change within 4 months' time. But that's how I'm reading it today, feeling that. So it's, again, you see, it's the card of support, it's grounding and support. There's something here whereby it's actually, it's helping the children, it's not hindering them. Okay, I do really, truly understand all of the arguments around this. I really do, guys. Okay, but you know, I'm just telling you what I'm pulling through here, which is I'm trying to help. Okay, so there was another question that came in from a lady here who talked about the fact that they're having to use sanitizer in between lessons, before lessons and after lessons. Now, again, whether that's true for everybody, I don't know. And she's worried about it obliterating the bacteria upon their skin, which of course then has an impact on their immune system. What I'm hearing in relation to that is that say that that's a given, that that's happening, that it is obliterating some of the bacteria that helps to strengthen our immune system. What Metatron is saying is that school is not their whole life, okay? So say, for example, you went into a totally sanitized school and you had to sanitize your hands, you know, I don't know, 10 times a day, you're wearing your mask, you're almost like in a bubble. To be honest, that's not even possible because there's always going to be bacteria around because that's just the nature of life, okay? Unless literally it's almost like Robocop is going in there, you know, spraying everything, you know, every 3 seconds, which isn't going to be happening. But, you know, he's talking about their wider life. He's showing me boys kicking footballs around in the mud, you know? He's showing me children in the garden. He's showing me teenagers in the park drinking beer, you know, with, you know, their hands on the grass. We live in a world where there is bacteria everywhere. And so even if you were to go into a pocket, albeit it's for a relatively long number of hours per day, you're then walking down the street, you're then, you know, sitting on the bus, you're then, so I wouldn't worry about that too much because he's sort of saying there's enough bacteria out there to keep the immune systems more than occupied, is what he's saying, okay? All right, let's just move on now. I want to cover homeschooling a little bit as well on this video. I just want to see if there's anything else that I want to say before I move on to that. Did I talk about structure earlier? I think I probably did. We were showing the priorities card, weren't we? The fact that it's really important that kids get some sort of structure back and routine back as much as they can. So again, that's a positive for the schools going back. And that's something, again, that you can be talking to your children and young people about, that structure is actually very important for us all through our life. You know, whatever age we are, whether we're a school or college going kid to the old person who, you know, hasn't got a job anymore but still needs to build structure into their life. Even if it's, my structure is I walk down to the shops, on a Tuesday I go bowling, on a Friday, I don't know, I ring my daughter, or whatever it is. You need structure in life. I get up at this sort of time, I have my meal at this time, I go to bed at this time. Structure is really important in life. And again, because things are so fluid and they're being asked to be adaptable, there needs to be some structure where it is possible, okay? So if, for example, I don't know, within the home, meal times are a certain time, you have a structure where you all sit down to eat together. On a Saturday you do this, on a Sunday you do that, on a particular evening, I don't know, you turn off all the social media and TV and read or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's just getting some sort of structure together, some sort of routine is going to help, okay? Right, okay, let's move on. I want to talk about home education, but I also just want to say something. There's a couple of really lovely comments that came in here from people who are teachers. And I want to do this now from the teacher's perspective, some of the problems that they're coming up against. Faye Stally, I teach in Australia, and today I had a year 6 class where many of them are suffering from pretty severe anxiety. One student was telling me how anxious he was about dying. In the past few years, I've had many students in this age bracket seriously freaking out about it. When I asked the rest of the class who else thinks a lot about illness and dying and who finds themselves really concerned about it, most of the class put their hands up. I was shocked at the depth of their despair, and for many, their concerns have been unspoken until today. I'm also a mindfulness teacher at school and do relaxation and journeying meditations with the primary students. Brilliant, well done, Faye. I work on other areas of self-esteem and anger and anxiety management. I'd be interested to know more about this age group, why their level of concern about dying is so high, and the best ways to help them find clarity and dissipate this level of anxiety. I think you sort of know part of the answer there. You've all answered it actually in that second point, and I'm really glad I've read this now because it's obviously tying into meditation and mindfulness. The need for that. I mean, just the need for that. The need for meditation and mindfulness for all of us, to be perfectly honest, but equally for that to be taught to our youngest people as well. But I'm hearing we have to model that, okay? So if we as the grown-ups aren't able to demonstrate mindfulness and to develop some sort of meditative practice, then how are we expecting our children to? And I'm also wanting to say why we're expecting the school to just do that for them as well. So it has to come from the home, has to come from us. Now, by meditative practice, that could be anything. That could be like a daily walk, okay? It doesn't have to be sitting down cross-legged, is what I always say. It can be a daily walk. Again, it comes into structure, it comes into routine. Meditation basically is something where you're able to clear your mind, okay? So an activity that clears your mind. It could also be something such as, my daughter's got into painting at the moment, like watercolour painting and, or reading or anything that is stilling the mind in some way. So again, they learn from you as the steward. You have to demonstrate these skills, and it's going to do you good as well. It's going to do me good as well. So, but yeah, formal meditation as well. What is that? It's just about sitting still. It's about learning some breathing techniques, for example, breathing in, breathing out, breathing more deeply than you normally do, breathing out more, than you normally do. It's about centering yourself. It's about grounding yourself. It's to do with maybe evoking a particular mantra, a chant, focusing on a colour, focusing on a word, focusing on a quality or an energy, peace and health, and love, safety, anything that you feel as though you need. Developing 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, just to sit and sit and reflect and be with that particular energy or mantra or word that you're wanting to bring into your being. Teaching your child that's part of life. That's part of life's practice. Just as much as we need to get up and we need to eat and we need to brush our teeth and have a wash, etc., so too the importance for stillness. So again, if you're somebody that finds it very hard to be still and to stop, then how can you expect your child to learn how to be still and to stop? So it's Metatron saying it starts with us and then it filters down. That's not to say, of course, that we don't learn from them as well. It comes both ways. But that's what I'm hearing with regard to meditation and mindfulness, being focused. It's this card again, prioritization. What are you focused on? What are you prioritizing? Comes into all of this as well, because ultimately what's behind these kids who are feeling very anxious and very unsettled, I mean, they're taking it to an extreme in terms of illness and death, but it's the overwhelm energy. It's overwhelm. So if we're overwhelmed, we have to let go of certain behaviours, practices, things that we're doing that is just adding more and more and more to our plate. Interestingly, certainly in the UK, they've been talking about the fact they've done some research on, kids And there was one research that came out which was saying that children's anxiety had come down a lot from not having been in school, because some of the expectation has gone, the pressure has gone. So again, we don't want to go back into a very pressurized environment, which it may well be. So if that is the case, it's about taking off pressure anywhere else that you can, or whatever is overloading their plate, but you need to be talking to them about what that is. I must admit, Faye, when I first read this comment from you about this particular age group and being worried about dying, for example, it did take me back to, just my own memories of youth. And I think it's fair to say that part of growing up, and certainly, I don't know what age it really kicks in, I think it's often teenagehood, seems to be, a lot of kids can get quite obsessed with this. It isn't always something to worry about, I want to say. I mean, obviously, sometimes it can be, and you need to watch for that. Of course you do. But I do, in my day, it was the goths, not that I'm saying they're death obsessed, but, there was even myself, who was like Miss Goody Two-Shoes, to be perfectly honest, as a teenager. Some of the music I got into and some of the people that I was following at that time, when I look back on it, it was pretty bleak. And the energies were a bit dark, actually, in retrospect, and gloom laden. What was that all about? I think in retrospect, it was an aspect of uncovering shadow, my own shadow, and delving into that. So we sometimes look on youngsters and we feel as though we need to wrap them in cotton wool. And of course they do need to be protected, but equally they are processing their own shadow in the same way that we are processing our own shadow. And, part of the shadow is facing the fear of death, and the fear that we are, or just the reality of death, that none of us are going to be around forever. They talk about children, when the first pet dies, and it's almost like it's the first experience of death. And actually, although it's traumatic for the child when like the family dog dies or the family cat dies, it's the first time when the child gets exposure to this is a part of life. This is part of life's reality. And I think that we're living in a society which never wants to look at it, never wants to face it. It's been a very sort of bubblegum type pop, era that we've been living through over the last few decades, where, the whole celebrity thing. There's a young lady in the UK at the moment. I'm sorry, I can't remember the lady's name, but she was in Girls. She is. I don't think they're allowed. Don't think they are around anymore. Girls Aloud, I think they were called. She's 38 anyway, and she's got breast cancer, and it's not looking good because it's spread to other parts of her body. And yeah, on one level it's shocking, but on another level it's death, the prospect of death, the prospect of ill health. It is there in every single street. There are people probably who are suffering, who are grieving. I've got somebody in my street I know who's dying. It's an old man up the road. And it's like, we don't want to look at it. But that's actually, that's a fear that we need to get through as a species as well, because it is part of life. So in some ways, I can understand the concern in terms of, oh my God, they're all worried about illness and dying. But there's another part of me that's thinking, wow, how spiritually mature are these kids that they're going there, okay, that they're going there. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't need support around it, okay? What they need is intelligent, grown-up adults who are spiritually mature as well to be able to steer them through it. And that's where, as a spiritual light worker community, this is where we come in. If you're not a parent, maybe you're a teacher, or maybe you're a friend. Maybe your friend, if you haven't got children yourself, maybe your friend has got children. Maybe you're a godparent. Maybe you're an auntie. Maybe you're an uncle. Maybe you're a brother, a sister. We all have responsibility for helping people to grow up in this world. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. It takes a whole village to bring up a child. Okay, so yes, support, communication, and listening to their fears is important. But I'm not going into I'm not feeling like a mad panic in terms of, oh my God, why are they feeling this? I think it's actually a reflection of how spiritually awake and in tune with their real raw emotions this new generation are. And certainly coming from the UK, where generations grew up with, you just be quiet and never say anything and don't talk about your feelings and zip it. It's like, wow, these kids are like, really? They're talking about death and they can go there? And we're like, my God, that's a problem. But actually, who's actually got the problem? Is it the child that's actually been able to express it and talk about it? Or is it us that can't even go there? We can't even go there. So I think it raises some really interesting questions, all of that. But yeah, giving, what's the best support you can give a child? Love, and more love, basically. So I want to read this lovely comment that came in from Jane Lee Panovich, who is a teacher. This is the type of teacher we all want for our kids. She says, as a teacher, I am working on raising my vibration to slip into the highest possible timeline where there is no virus. I am working on connecting to soul. Students will need to play ball, but it will be softball and gentle tosses. I wonder what teachers need. I think we need more teachers like you. I mean, teachers need each other is what I'm hearing. Now I've never been in that sort of environment, so it's just that whole energy of pulling together, isn't it? Don't remember what I said earlier though, that some are going to be leaving the profession and there's a whole other influx coming in. So it's like teamwork's going to save the day, basically. Teamwork is going to save the day. We've also got a comment here from Erin Campbell, who says, I'm an overwhelmed teacher of 700 students in hybrid / online learning, twice the time for prepping, website, videos, virtual classrooms, so many emails to respond to and no training, no PPE, feeling vulnerable. I'm feeling really emotional for you, Erin. I'm really feeling that. I'm really feeling your words. Really respecting where you're at with that. Okay, let's see what Metatron can say for this. Yeah, that's overwhelming, isn't it? Wow, isn't it? Okay. Christ. Okay. Let's ask for some guidance here for the teachers. Because she's right. There's been no preparation for them. They're in this now. Who's going to help the teachers, Metatron? How can we help the teachers? The energy straight away, just as I'm tuning in, it's going straight to my feet, and I'm being shown this huge, great big tree with the roots going really, really deep down. So you're going to have to dig really deep. You need to be really grounded. You need to be doing as many grounding exercises as you can, okay? Grounding mats, grounding crystals, grounding techniques, grounding visualizations, grounding affirmations. My nose is going crazy, so I know there's something in this. The more in touch you can be with Mother Earth, the more that Mother Earth is going to help you. Mother Earth is going to come to your aid. It's working with the energy of Mother Earth. I often give the analogy of like a bulb that's trying to push up from the surface, and the bulb perseveres even though the ground is very barren, that somehow the shoot comes up. And all I can feel is like this, it's like this pressure to break through. Mother Earth trying to help you at this time. Nature trying to help you at this time. The elements trying to help you at this time. Because the nature of where we're all at is we're all up here in our head with this in terms of education and where are we going and how do we do it, and oh my God, I've got this to do and then I've got that pile of stuff to do and I'm overwhelmed. It's like straight away I'm wanting to go to nature. Nature is the biggest help here, the biggest support that you can get. If you can, I don't know how possible this is, but if you can get outside and teach the children outside as well, that's going to be so helpful. I know that's not possible for all, but it is possible for some. Teaching outside, being in nature, but also you recharging yourself with nature. You being amongst the trees. I'm seeing a teacher, and she's like, maybe it's the lady I'm tuning into here, but it's not just her, it's all of the teachers. It's like tuning into nature, being in forests. What are forests about? Forests about I can breathe, I can breathe. I can breathe, and I know as I say that there are forests on fire in some parts of the world, but they're not on fire everywhere. Okay, so it's using the energy of the trees, the symbolism of the trees, the tree energy coming through very strongly here. There's an energy, sounds strange, I know, but it's like I'm channeling a tree here. I'm seeing this tree, and I'm seeing a number of different trees. I'm seeing a tree that's been cut in half, and when you can see the inside of the tree and you can see all the different rings inside the tree, you can see the life story of the tree, you can see everything that it went through, you can see periods of growth, you can see periods where it didn't have enough water, when the ground was parched and dry, other periods when the tree really expanded because the earth was very fertile. It's almost as though you've got to try and imagine yourself as this tree that's going through this really enforced period of evolution right now, and it's hitting your part of the world hugely. It's hitting business, it's hitting education, it's hitting commerce, it's hitting finance, it's hitting the family. There are big areas of life which are being really affected by ascension and awakening energies at the moment. And COVID is part of this. It's trying to force us to change the way we do things. So to try and link into the energy of the trees, to be with the trees, to see yourself as the tree as well, that's able to grow even through adversity. Ancestors on the bottom of the deck. Ancestors. There's ancestral help here for the teachers. Literally, individual teachers, call on your ancestors. There are people in your ancestral line that can help you. And what I know what this is as well. Kerry sent me, there's somebody who's just died, who I feel like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to channel them through because I think they've only just passed, but I'm going to mention this person now because it comes in terms of ancestors. Kerry Dawes, Amanda, a lovely man named Sir Ken Robinson passed away this week. Okay, that's literally this week then. That's why I can't bring him through yet. A lovely man named Sir Ken Robinson passed away this week. He was a great advocate of home education and the importance of creativity in children and adults learning. My message is not so much a question, but a suggestion for a line of thought. And then she's going to go on to talk about home education. I'll come back to that in a moment. So Ken Robinson's energy I've got here. The other energy I've got is Steiner, Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner as a guide for teachers. Those of you that are able to tune into spirit and link into spirit, I'm feeling that Rudolf Steiner seems to be coming through as a guide for many teachers at this time. I'm almost wanting to say, I'm seeing again like an oversoul group of teachers on this planet at the moment who've signed up to be the ones who are going to be teaching this generation of children, including the new teachers that are coming in. And then over that oversoul group, I'm seeing Rudolf Steiner. And he's coming through as a very like grandfatherly type energy with I don't know what you look like in real life, but I'm seeing a lot of grey hair, like a beard. It's like he's appearing like a grandfather type energy. And he's saying you can call on me. But he's also saying that I'm wanting to take you back to the teachings of Rudolf Steiner. Look at that communication on the bottom of the pack as well. I mean, gosh, we're I don't know, maybe we're an hour and a half into this video. I'm not going to channel Rudolf Steiner now. Maybe I will another day, guys, because I'm just getting tired. I don't think I can do it now, but I can feel his energy here. I can really feel his energy here. He's got something he wants to communicate. Oh, gosh, okay. Can I do this? I'll just see if I can do a couple of minutes to see. I don't know. Rudolf Steiner. Of course you can do it, he says. We all think we can't do things that we can do. We all think when we're faced with challenges that we can't push through them, we can. It's just the way that we approach a problem. There is always a creative solution to any problem. There is a creative solution to where any teacher finds themselves at this moment in time. He's talking about the fact that the teachers need to when he's saying work with the children, I'm feeling it's very much like a co-creation between the students and the teacher. He's saying the old model of the teacher standing in front of the classroom, like we were saying at the beginning, the Victorian classroom, I'm up here, you're down there, you've got to listen to me, I've got the chalk in my hand, I'm writing on the blackboard, listen, there's your lesson, go away, bells rung, bye. That's gone, okay? What's coming in is education, which is it's like a co-creative experience. You are co-creating it with the children. The teachers are going to be listening to much more. That's not judging where they are at the moment, but I'm seeing ears. He's just shown me ears. The teachers having very open ears it's just a much more flexible way of working with the children, co-creating with them is what he's saying. It's like he's showing me the circle. It's like a circle. It's not the triangle. It's not the teacher at the head of the there and the children are here. It's like the circle. He's definitely there for any teacher that's struggling. I'm really encouraging you to try and look at the teachings of Rudolf Steiner. And I feel as though what will happen is as soon as you do that, it's like he's there. I'm just feeling his energy. Yeah, the card of new dawn, new beginnings. He wants to, and the card of higher realms. Yeah, he's there in the higher realms wanting to bring in this new beginning for schools. We're going to have to look at this another time because it's a huge subject, okay? But just know that Steiner is there absolutely with you, and is going to help with this, all right? And you can draw. The thing is, you can draw on him. You can draw on his expertise. He can work through you. He's saying, I can work through you. It's like anything. You just have to align to it. You have to ask for his energy to be with you. And when you've asked and you've aligned, which just means I'm open to receiving that, he will work through you. You'll start to find some creative approaches for problems that you've got. Okay, I'm going to end just with a little bit on home education, which again is probably another video in its own right. But just trying to get as many subjects done in this video. I haven't covered everything I wanted to, but yeah, let's go back to home education. So what's happened in my life is that we decided to home educate my child, and we pulled her out of school the week before lockdown happened. I had no idea lockdown was about to happen, so it was complete and utter orchestration by Metatron, and we did it for personal reasons, which I'm not going to go into. She's thriving in the environment. She's very happy with it. As a parent, I was very, very stressed about making the decision, thinking I was going to make the wrong decision. The thing in retrospect that I learned was that, again, what Steiner's just said, co-creation is actually what happened, because she was actually the person that asked for it. Okay, so there's this thing about listening to our children, listening to what they need. Some of you that sent questions in to me, you were actually saying, my child is saying they don't want to go back. Now, this isn't just the same as like first day back nerves, okay? That's a whole other ball game that, you know, as a parent, you'll have come up against before. It might very well be bigger this time round because they've been away from the school environment for longer. So it's about building their confidence up and just telling them it's going to be okay, etc. Listening to them, you know, not ignoring what they're saying. But I'm talking about kids that are persistently and very authentically and for good reason saying, I don't want to go back, Mum. I don't want to go back, Dad. I've actually enjoyed doing it in this way. I've enjoyed the online learning. You need to listen to that, okay? So this is a comment here from a lady called Kerry, and I don't think she'll mind me saying that I know you home educate, so I know this lady. So she says, my message is not so much a question, but a suggestion for a line of thought. And that is that for those who have decided, whether due to COVID or before the whole pandemic, to home educate their children, that allowing your children to have control and autonomy can lead to really positive results. Allowing your children to be creative rather than being told they have to do this and that and what to learn, and giving them a large percentage of responsibility for their own learning can really help alleviate the stress of home education. We don't have to create school in our homes. We don't have to replicate a school in our homes. We can create an education of our own vision. Sometimes just a conversation can be what your kids take the most from. I could go on all day about this, but I recommend having a look into Sir Ken Robinson and his TED Talks. Well, I've not looked at Sir Ken Robinson, but there we go, Sir Ken Robinson and his TED Talks. So that's somebody who's an advocate of home education. And there were others of you as well. I don't know whether I've actually marked your comments, but I've certainly heard from a number of people who are saying, I'm not sure we're going to be sending our kids back. Here we go. Marie Purdy, homeschooling is looking more and more appealing these days. There's a number of comments that have come in of a similar ilk on that. As I say, in retrospect, I realised I was tuning into something and I didn't even realise what I was tuning into, but we made the decision before all this kicked off. It's going really well. And I think what Kerry was saying there about not thinking that you've got to create a school in your home. You're not. You're just creating an environment to learn. This is Jophiel coming in now, Archangel Jophiel. So he's saying for those that want to do this or can do this, not everybody can. Totally understand that. Not everybody can. In terms of if you've got, 9 to 5 job and you're out of the house all day, it's going to be very hard. Okay. I work from home. I'm always at home. So, there's a lot of people who now work from home. Admittedly, you've still got to do your own work. Okay, you can't just not do your own work and just become the teacher. But there are, again, this is a whole other video, but there are a lot of online resources. For those people that can help other people with this, please feel free to put links to home ed, options that you have done yourself, that you have found supportive and helpful for people that don't know anything about it, because it is like anything. It feels like a mountain before you actually get to it, but then it is just about taking the first step. But that thing about having more, giving the child responsibility for their learning as well. Again, it all ties into what Metatron's been saying in this video. The kids are more adaptable than you give them credit for. There's more in them than we give them credit for a lot of the time. So, and this generation of children, they're doing things in a slightly different way. They're all going to be different, of course they are, but they're doing it differently. Archangel Jophiel, creating an environment conducive to learning in your home. So structure, switching off things like electronics, distraction, phones and things like that. You need to be doing things like that so that there's an opportunity to learn. I'm feeling the energy of, for want of a better word, like feng shui. It's like having a clear space to sit and physically do the work rather than just, lying on your bed trying to read a book. That's not going to work, is it? It's creating an environment that's conducive to learning. Again, I keep wanting to go back. It starts from us as well. Are we setting an example there? Are we open to learn as parents? Be honest with yourself. Are we open to learn? Are we demonstrating that energy that we're wanting for our child to embody? Okay, which is about openness to learn. And that comes into all of life. Are we willing to be flexible? When was the last time we tried to learn something new? Ask yourself that. When was the last time you tried to learn something new, genuinely something new? Maybe a new author, looked into some history, went to an art gallery, did something cultural, went to a play, did some Sudoku, did some maths, played some chess. I want to start learning chess. That type of thing. Then you're demonstrating the art of learning. The art of learning. There is an art to learning, is what Archangel Jophiel is saying. There is an art to learning. And like anything, yes, it can be taught, but it's best to be demonstrated. Let's just pull a card linked into this. I actually feel like I'm being drawn to some sacred geometry. That's something to learn, isn't it? Hold on. Maybe this could be something that we could learn a bit more about, sacred geometry. Okay, this is the deck by Francine Hart. let's just pull a card from here, and then I think this is more than enough for part one. And I'm getting a bit tired as well now, so. But, you know, even saying that, you see there's information coming in with that. Conducive to learning. Need for adequate sleep. Okay? Just because they're home-educated children, they still need structure. They still need to be getting up at a certain time. They still need to be going to bed at a certain time. You know, it doesn't become so flexible that it's just like, you know, all for, yeah, there's no boundaries. Right. Don't even know why I'm pulling this card, but let's just see why. Let's just see. You don't need to know why. That's interesting. You don't need to know why is what I'm hearing. The art of learning is sometimes in the discovering. So just picking up this, there's something we're going to learn from this, and I don't know what it is before I start off. Just having that energy of discovery and not always knowing what the end result is going to be. Being open to make mistakes as well, I'm hearing. Being open to fail sometimes. He's talking about new skills that you develop. The first time you try and do, I don't know, a particular equation or write something, you might not do very well at it, but you keep on going. It's okay to fail. Failure actually teaches you something as well. So it's all about discovery. It's about being open-minded. Again, we as adults, we often close ourselves in because we don't want to look stupid, so we don't try. Again, we're demonstrating that to our children. But they can teach us as well. Yeah. My daughter was doing a long division the other day, and I probably haven't done long division since I was... God knows how old. I've totally forgotten how to do it. And there was part of me just thought, oh yeah, well I used to be able to know how to do that. Never mind, I don't need it anymore. And I'm sitting here thinking, no, learn how to do it again. And the other interesting thing is the way that I learned to do it is not the way they teach it anymore. Good. The art of learning. The art of learning is ever evolving. Well, the card of yin yang has come out. The card of balance. Okay, the card of balance, yin yang. Owl and Raven, card number 7. Balance to everything. Balance to everything. Let's pull one more. What goes with the energy of yin yang in this context, in this video? Light and dark, right and wrong, yes and no. Vesica Pisces. Yes, of course. Creation is in the center of the two. The two. Old world, new earth. We're in this portal. We're in this birth portal at the moment. We're creating the new. We're merging two realities. Back to education. It's like the old system and the new system. The new system is some point in the future. We're not there yet. We're merging the two. And so as a consequence, we have to be fluid. We can't be rigid. It's not set. It's not set in stone. What is going on out there? I think someone's having their shopping delivered. You see, that's a good example. How many years ago you would never have had your shopping delivered to your house? Now it's like happens quite frequently and nobody bats an eyelid. It's a new way of shopping. How did that come about? What moment did we suddenly go to that? I don't know. It's the merging of the two, the old and the new. But yeah, balance, yin yang, keeping a balanced outlook, balanced mind, balanced life. I hope this has been a balanced reading. I'm going to say goodbye now and wish you lots of luck. Any youngsters that are watching me, have a good first day back. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Bring in your angels with you. Remember that you are your own superhero. And feel the fear and just do it anyway. You know, you were made for these times. Remember that. You were made for these times. Much love. Bye for now, guys. Bye.